Two, one. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another exciting episode of Passing on the Mantle with Pastor Undina, keeping a foundation in doctrines of the church. And today we are about to have an exciting conversation that is definitely much needed within the world itself at large, where we are in a state of a lot of loss, a lot of hurt, a lot of despair. So I asked some friends to come and share with them, being that they are in the field of life coaching as well as mental health and psychology, to give us tools and help us to understand what this grieving process is and what it looks like. So I want to welcome Dr. Phillip Copeland, Dr. J.D. Washington. Thank you, gentlemen. How are you today?
I'm good, and just a correction there. I'm Pastor Phillip Copeland. I hold a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. I'm not yet a doctor. The doctor is the Honorable Dr. Washington.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll accept that because I know you do a walk also in your little apostleship and everything, so that qualifies you. It's okay. Dr. Washington, a longtime friend. Love you, sir. Come on, let's give us some background.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to the show. I'm a licensed, a certified life coach, as well as I'm actually just being a bishop and apostle right now. Of course, you know, I've pastored several churches in the last 10 or so years, but overseeing, other churches at the time and really pouring into leadership and training leadership. So.
Well, I mean, that all has a place because, we know we have mental health and loss and grief in the church. So, of course, this platform is all about coming from the natural and the spiritual standpoint so that we can help empower the people that are going through these things and to discuss topics that the church don't seemingly want to deal with. So why I wanted to gather you gentlemen here, as you know, is because I do have lots of conversations. And, this is a time and season. We're going into Christmas. We just came out of Thanksgiving. And this is where, many people struggle with the fact of losing their loved one. We're here in 2020. It has been a pandemic. So the numbers of loss were just, first of all, unexpected, not predicted, if you will, and people did not know how to cope with losing people as fast as they are. They didn't have time to prepare. It wasn't like it was a long, drawn out illness or anything like that, where most people can kind of, especially like with cancer or something like that, where you can walk through the stages, of being able to adjust to the fact that this possibly could be the end for this loved one. And so with that, besides children now going to need therapy because of this, adults are going to need therapy out of this. Some children have never experienced any kind of loss ever. And now possibly there could have been a parent that could have been, caught into this situation. Help walk us through, and either one of you can start first, what we need to do and what we need to see when we're dealing with grief.
All right. As you rightly said, the grief process goes through stages, and as a doctor will attest, there are five prescribed stages of grief. But with what has been happening this year, those stages have been thrown out the window, so to speak. And one of the hardest part is that people are becoming ill. They are going into these institutions and they are suffering alone and dying alone. And if we look at it from a cultural aspect, whichever culture you're from, this is not how it normally would have been.
Right.
But so it's really chaotic, and the pandemic, so to speak, has changed the way people process grief, and it has really done away with, although temporarily, the 5 stages.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Washington?
Yeah, he's very, very accurate and correct with saying it's taking away the stages. And I guess the way I look at it now, you have to become more of a listener to people, because it can be difficult to just listen to someone who expresses their, emotional pain. But the best way to help a grieving person is to give them a chance to talk.
Okay.
Give them that room to talk about it. It helps most people just to be heard when they're holding a lot of emotional pain. And although it is difficult to talk about the pain, we need to feel connected to the person that we're talking to, and we need to feel emotionally safe. For instance, like, that person cares. We need to feel like that person cares and is interested in what we have to say. It's not all the time about, giving your advice. No, some people just need you to listen, because a lot of people are holding stuff inside. It's a lot to carry.
Yes.
And I think that most people have a natural caregiving instinct that makes us want to soothe the person and take away the pain. However, when someone is grieving the loss of someone close, we can't take that pain away.
Right.
We can only be willing to listen and share this very, very human sorrow, and let people feel like that they are human. Let them be able to go through the process of grieving, however that is, because everybody grieves differently.
Yes.
There's
no time frame for grief.
Right. And there is no set, to be honest with you, and I know some people may, differ with me, there is no set rules for grieving in the time that we're in now.
Okay, so let me ask you this question, because we have a platform of, various people, saved and not saved, right? And then we also have those that are in various stages of grief and loss. I know there's some people that they're still grieving their parents after 20 years, so I want to get to what you were saying exactly. Like, there's no time for grief, but really, is there kind of like a set healthy limit to say, okay, now that you're grieving, because I'm going to get into the planetarium stuff, but just as laying a foundation, is there really no time for grieving? Like, there's no limits on how you do it?
I believe it depends on the individual.
Okay.
Because each of us are different. Each of us process things differently. It's like learning. You try to teach somebody something. Everybody has a different learning skill of how they're learning. My thing is, I think it's very healthy to grieve and to go through that process, but you can't stay there.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Right.
You need to first of all, you need to know that the feelings are valid.
Right.
It's okay for you to feel that
angry or whatever.
Exactly. Grief is messy.
Right.
But it's a natural response to loss. So there is no right or wrong ways to experience it.
Okay, so now with you saying that, we're taught, because we all come from church, that
Right.
You can't be angry at God. So just deal with that one of you deal with that.
I believe you can be angry with anyone because it's a natural human response. However, from the spiritual aspect of it, we need to understand as Christians who God is, and come from it from that posture. Yes, you can be angry, but you also need to understand, you can't hold anyone at fault and you can't hold God at fault. It's something that happened in life. And I think the problem comes in with we as Christians, we try to separate our church Christ-like culture from our actual
humanity
culture.
Right.
And all of it encompasses life. We have to understand this is a life process. It's all life. Things happen in life. you know. So we have to come to the realization that it's okay to be upset. It's okay to, you know, let it out. You know, if you gotta beat the drum,
rocks, yeah,
wall, if you got to do something, you know, just let it go, let it out, and I guarantee you'll feel better. And once you get past that, then you can start going to the next level.
all right, go ahead, Mr. Copeland.
Yes, and you know, as the doctor said, there's actually no specific time to grieve, but in the same breath, I heard you mention somebody who might have been grieving for 20 years. Um, that that is not normal grief. That is now become a what is called complicated grief. And in cases like that, um, that is when you will need to make an appointment to see Dr. Washington in his office, because you're talking about a different type of grief here, and this type of grief can lead to several things, including depression.
Yes, yes. So that's also because I'm going to just talk about myself because I can. Like when I met my mother-in-law 11 years ago, I had to think 11 years ago. I remember her saying to me, I met her in April, and she was like, well, I'm just going to tell you now that, you know, when October comes, I'm just going to be grumpy and nasty and mean. And I had to sit there and pause for a minute. I said, well, why? And she was like, because that's when my husband died. And so for me, I was like, okay, I do get it. I said, well, why would you set yourself up for something that's already here in April for something that hasn't even happened in October? Like, don't you want to move past that? And so I wound up finding myself having like a lot of conversation on people and how they understand and or process their grief process. Okay, so step one is, God forbid, okay, we'll take the pandemic. People just died. Just, you know, just had a cough and the next day they were gone. Okay. You did not get a chance to say goodbye. You were not there to be able to hold their hand. Okay. But then those that have been able to walk through the steps, as you say, and the process of watching their loved one deteriorate, how can, you know, this, I know the Bible is true, and I know the Bible also talks about planets, solar system, stars, everything. Because when he told the wise men to go follow the star, that deals with, you know, the solar system and everything like that. So dealing with horoscopes, because people don't believe in horoscopes, and being those of us that are from deliverance are taught that horoscope is a demonic activity, but it plays much part in our makeup of our body and how we do feel and transition and transition things in our minds, right? So now when the person is in this grief process, they had a death, it broke their heart. There was this, you know, it was their parent or whatever, that loved one that was really their center of their being. And they cannot feel that they can move past this person dying, and has now been, let's say, over 10 years, right? Mr. Copeland talked about, you know, how it becomes a mental thing where you need therapy. Why is it that we feel that we cannot get the therapy that we need so that we can properly grieve, properly categorize it and put it in a place? And instead of grieving and mourning, we can now rejoice in the life of the person that left us.
Okay, so culturally, I think culture has a big part to play in that. And regardless of what culture we're from, we grieve in death or at death, and it depends on how close the person was to us. It will depend. It will determine how quickly we can get past that, get over that death, or and get through that grieving process. parents grieving for their children will not be the same as a brother grieving for a sister.
Right.
A wife grieving for her husband, or a husband grieving for a wife will not be the same as a mother grieving for a child.
Right.
So the circumstances can and will determine to a large extent, in a lot of the cases, the length of the grieving process.
Okay.
One of the things I think the question that you asked is, why can't we get past the grieving part?
Mm-hmm.
Was that what it was at the beginning?
Yes.
I think a lot of people sometimes, just across the board, I think there's a generality of people not accepting the reality of the loss.
Okay.
It's almost like we get stuck in a loop where we experience that death over and over and over again, and we don't accept the reality of the loss. And this involves overcoming the natural denial response and realizing that that loved one is physically dead. It's physically gone. Like activities such as viewing the body after death, like attending the funeral, the burial services, and visiting a place where maybe the body is laid to rest, can all aid in this process. Because that brings you closer to the reality that they're actually gone. Mm-hmm. And it also helps. It's also helpful to spend time openly, again, talking about the deceased person, or even the circumstances surrounding the death as you grapple with the reality, which will bring you to the point of being a little bit freer, to embrace the consolation of knowing that the spiritual life goes on, and that and that they're okay. And also, that's the other point too, understanding and embracing and knowing that they are okay.
I want to touch on that just a little bit, because I'm just realizing that there are many of us that are calling ourselves saved, born again believers, mm-hmm. that grieve more sometimes than the world does, and harder than the world does. Right. And I personally question the fact of, if this person in your life was born again, we should not be grieving like that, because this earth is not our permanent home. And I think that we have now become a culture and a population of people that believe that this earth is our final destiny, and it is not. So put that in perspective. I'm going to leave that to the experts.
Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. This, as you rightly said, as Christians, we don't believe that this earth is our final home. And but there's a saying that goes like this, that everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die.
Right.
All right. So and from a pastoral perspective, the Bible says that we pass from life unto death. So we do understand as Christians that this is a part of the process, and it's not that we don't know. Is that a lot of us have a problem accepting this part as a part of the process.
Okay.
And unfortunately or fortunately, it's a part that we cannot avoid.
Okay, so now, well, let me ask this question. Is it the fact that we are in denial of the process, or we're afraid on how we're going to die?
I don't think we are in denial. I think it's more fear of the unknown. And I would ask the doctor what he thinks about that, if he thinks it's denial or more fear for the unknown.
I think it could be both, because we are spirit and we are man. So therefore, but there are both things warring with each other. Our spiritual self is warring with our natural self.
Mm-hmm.
Into, we know spiritually what 1 Thessalonians 4:13 says.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but our humanity is saying, you know what? I hurt. I don't understand. I'm mad. I'm angry. This, that, and the other, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's both. I think there's a warning. And then on top of that, I just saw somebody post something in the chat, and they're absolutely right. And I was going to say this too. Sometimes we can over spiritualize things.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes there's some people who they're saved, sanctified, and filled, but their mental faculties might not be all together.
Right.
Okay. So their grieving is going to be totally different from somebody else's, because they're not going to be able to really grapple with that on a certain level. There is nothing wrong with getting help. There is nothing wrong with getting counseling. There's nothing wrong with going to see someone to help you get past where you are. God is not going to be mad with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
He's not going to be.
You're not going to be doomed to eternal hell and fire and brimstone.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So to answer your question, I think it's both. I think there's denial. And I think there is the fear of death. And if we can be honest with ourselves, most Christians are conflicted about that. Mm-hmm. I believe some Christians, maybe I shouldn't say most, but some Christians really grapple with the fact, is there really a heaven or hell?
Right. I was about to ask, because, the white evangelicals have some, their own interpretation, and we have our own interpretation.
Absolutely.
So,
and it's confusing. To be honest with you, it's very confusing. That's why the Bible teaches us to work out our own soul salvation.
Mm-hmm.
We're on various levels of knowing. We're various levels of understanding.
And we have various theologies on a whole lot of things.
Absolutely.
Doctrinal that are not doctrine, and you have some religions that believe in not in any way, like just take life support, for example.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid your loved one is on life support. Now, do you make that decision to remove them because the doctor says there's no brain activity? There's nothing else that we can do. Do you put your faith in action, say, no, we're just going to believe God? Because I remember when, I read somewhere where someone was in a coma for 7 years and they woke up. Is it a play, or how can we just navigate our understanding to understand those processes when it's dealing with the medical and the spiritual?
As for me and my house, let me put it to you this way. If I'm ever in that condition, and I've said this before to family members, if I'm ever in that place or condition, that's not living for me.
Okay.
And I believe at that point my purpose is done. So there's no and if I was to live, I cannot fulfill my purpose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for me in my house, I'm ready to go on with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just ready. I don't think, for me, that would not be a healthy thing. And I also believe that for other people, most people would not want to live. They would not want to live that way. And I would not want to live for anyone, especially if they're in pain. That way.
My wife and I, we had that very conversation like a week and a half ago, and it's a conversation that is worthwhile having, especially with life being so uncertain and the times we're living in, and it is one thing we both agreed on then, that if we get to that stage, don't fight to save us.
Mm-hmm.
Let us go.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because we believe that when it gets to that stage, we would have lived a full life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we would have done our best for humankind.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
just let us go, let us go in peace.
Mm-hmm.
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 So that is a conversation worthwhile having. But that being said, though, no matter what stage people are in, no matter how sick they are, when they die, people are going to grieve.
Right.
Yeah.
So now in the mental, let's get deeper into the mental capacity of it, because people shut their own lives down just to mourn and
Yes.
grieve for their loved ones year after year after year after year. But that's why I love, the title, the way the Lord gave it to me. There is life after death.
Absolutely.
And you do not have to get yourself mentally bogged down and encaged by not being able to, number one, like you said, express yourself. But
Mhm.
I do understand if people don't have those types of persons in their life where they're not able to express those things. And if you already have a jaded view of what counseling can help you with and therapy can help you with, there is nothing else for you to do but sit in your house, if you will, and just meditate on this day and night, and then get so grieved, stricken, that you don't think of anything else to do. So I want to kind of navigate into that, like helping our viewers to, how can we help you help yourself? How can we help you understand it's good to grieve? It's great to grieve. It's even therapeutic and healthy
Yes.
for you to grieve. But you don't have to get stuck in your grief. You
Right.
don't have to have your whole life, you can't do nothing. You can't think straight. You can't get up in the morning. Now you're on medication because, either it's anxiety or something. You're putting yourself at more harm, not releasing it, than being able to find a place where you can release it. So with the mental, especially COVID, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had this year. People are really now on this whole mental strain, if you will, because they could not comprehend such great losses. When you lose 30 people that
Mhm.
that's a lot. And I mean, day after day after day. And
Yeah.
we all can attest to the first quarter of this year. It was every hour on the hour. My phone was going off like this one died, that one died. And I'm like, I had to literally, when I found out that one of the most dearest women in my life, when I was talking to her on the phone when she was dying, and to get the call the next morning to say that she had died, it took me 4 days to get out of the bed.
Wow.
I could not
Wow.
at all. I had a migraine. I mean, that thing just put me into a tailspin that I did not even I didn't even think. But thank God I have people in my life. Oh my God, I'm about to cry. That not only did they call and check on me, but they made me move.
Right. Right.
Okay. It was, you don't get the right.
Mhm.
Stop because of this.
Mhm.
And they, within those literally, I was in the bed, lights out in the dark for 4 days, because I could not believe I had just talked to this woman, and my relationship with her was such that there was nothing I would never do for her if she asked.
Mhm.
And to know that she was on the phone, she was like, "Well, when you coming over?" And I'm sitting here like, I know you're sick, but trying to process it. And then when I had time to really digest it, that even made me even feel more, if you will, guilt, which was really a false guilt, because I felt that I should have been there to save her from this. And that I did not live up to my promise to her that anytime she called me, I would be there. So it took people in my life to be able to speak me into me.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So when there are many people that I know that don't have that, so I want us to give them some fun release to say this is okay.
Mhm.
Cry if you need to,
Yep.
Weep, whatever you need to do. Like we said, throw rocks, bang a wall, whatever that thing is to help you get a breakthrough from it. And then sit back and just relax, take a breath. And now let's put tools in place for our lives that because you're still here. So what was the point in you living here for 20 years and not being able to live fully?
Right.
Those 20 years.
Right.
Makes no sense.
Right.
And you know, and that is one of the things in our culture, especially among us Black men, is that we think it's weakness to express grief by crying.
Yes.
And it's really not so. When we have things bottled up inside with nowhere for it to go, that is when it creates all sort of problems. That's when the anxiety set in, the depression set in, all sort of mental issues set in, because we have it bottled up and we refuse to let it out. And if we don't let it out freely, then it's going to find its own avenue,
right,
to get out.
And that's going to help you either turn to alcoholism, just random acts of doing things that you wouldn't consciously do because that emotion right there is misplaced.
Right. So it's one of the things that we need to recognize, that grieving is normal, and it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things that I question people with, I give them this question when I see they're taking too long to get out of a cycle, or they've gone really, really deep into something, deep depression or whatever. One of the questions I ask them in dealing with that is, what would that person say to you now?
That's my girlfriend said that to me. She was like, "Mother would not want you doing this. What is wrong with you?"
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I would receive it. Yes.
Right. What would that person say to you now? How would they respond to you? Would they be upset with you because you're acting a certain way? You're not living your life. How would they want their legacy to be remembered, and realizing that their legacy even could live through you, but it can't go on if you're this way? Normally, sometimes that makes people think, and it wakes them up a little bit, to say, no, they wouldn't want me to be this way. Okay.
But then the thing is, well, I don't have nothing to live for. They're not here anymore. So what am I, go ahead. I just, and that's not to make light, but I'm just saying this is,
no,
that.
I think we call that a derailer.
Okay.
Because it can sidetrack the adaptive healing process. That's something that that's a form of guilt.
And some folks get guilt.
It's a form of guilt, and even though it's very natural, it's something that you need to pay attention to while trying to not let it take over and guide your choices as you move forward. Okay. In other words, you need to allow yourself keyword is allow.
But you got to find that space within yourself.
Right. To have joy, to have satisfaction, and to live and to go on and live again. But the problem is we don't allow ourselves to do that.
So we don't allow ourselves even naturally every day to say,
No.
I love me, and it's okay for me to, go bowling today.
Right.
It's okay to go, and do whatever and not feel judged, if you will, because the church says, "Oh no, my God, you got to be on church on Sunday morning." I want to go to brunch.
It's important to find ways to restore your well-being.
Yep.
Regardless of what that is. Well-being, and to cope with whatever it is, whether it's the pandemic, anything. So right. There are three things, like acting in ways that are consistent with important personal values or some of your deeply held interests, or feeling competent to face and meet important challenges in your life, or having a sense of belonging and mattering in the world. You got to do things that is going to help restore your well-being. You can't And sometimes you can't even listen to other people, like you said. They talk, well, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? You know, you shouldn't be doing that. No, I have to do this for me. You know, I have to do this for me. The other thing is too, when we start saying things like that, the little negative things, and I don't have nothing to live for, da 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 da. I think we become a little selfish.
Okay.
That's a self thing. That's a self-loathing thing. That's a self thing. And so what you're actually saying is you're going to deny the world and deny other people of what is inside of you to give.
Right.
So in other words, you're actually going to die along with the other person.
And die full because you did not release your purpose destiny into the earth.
Right.
You're wallowing in self-pity.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And you can't have that. You can't, first of all, you can't let the guilt overwhelm you. Because first of all, it's not your fault.
Right.
None of that is your fault. None of it is your fault. It's life. It happens. And although it was sudden, we have to accept the fact that it was shocking and even difficult to comprehend. Yes, it was shocking. Yes, I don't understand it. And most of the time we won't understand it, you know, and that's all part of the life circle. But what is the most important thing right now? The most important thing, they're gone.
Right.
They're gone. The most important thing right now is your well-being.
Because you're still here.
Absolutely.
So now what is, or how can we develop to teach the people what their well-being looks like? Like, if I don't know what that looks like I've never, like, you know, because you have some people that are just caregivers all the time, always giving, taking care of somebody, always giving, and never once think of themselves. And now that person is no longer here. Who am I now?
That's a good question. That's a very, very good question. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and this is it's in these moments that you really have to challenge. You have to challenge these people, and I mean challenge them in ways that will cause them to start looking within themselves and to see that there's more within them than just being caregivers, caretakers for the people who are no longer here, and for them to realize that they have a purpose and something to live for.
Right.
But until you can get them to look within themselves and you take that inward examination and come to that realization.
So now does that come with as Dr. Washington said earlier, listening. And if I'm listening to you, sometimes I may be able to discern what that love thing is within you that you don't see in yourself. Is that okay? And then be able to help you nurture or say, hey, listen, maybe you do need to go see a therapist, but this is one bullet point that you should tell your therapist that you love to do, and help you design something for yourself to move forward.
Yeah. I actually went through that process personally, and I say that because
I didn't want to say, you know,
for so long, I was one of those that, because initially I don't think I really knew who I was or what I wanted to do in life per se. So what ended up happening was I started following the tenets of what other people wanted me to do. In that, I lost myself. I didn't know exactly who I was. I didn't know exactly what I liked. So I had a moment where I woke up.
Okay.
And what I did was, what helped me was, I started asking myself what I really liked.
Now let me ask you this question.
Start exploring.
When you were, you know, following everybody else's outline and guideline for yourself, did that make you an angry individual that you could not now find yourself? Because some people get angry because it's like, well, I did what you told me to do. I became this person over here. I became that person over there. You know, I got all this stuff around me and I still am unhappy and I don't know who I am.
No, I didn't get angry. I was more sad.
Okay.
Not angry. It made me, I became very sad, almost like depressive.
Okay.
Yeah. That was my issue. Because yeah. And when you're a person like me, of course, who was very, I wanted to make sure that I was pleasing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make sure that, and of course I can be a little competitive. I always got to, if I'm going to do something, it got to be right.
All right. All the way. Yes.
Yeah. All the way. But that really didn't make me happy at all. Because I found myself, okay, what next? You're never happy that way. So what I did was I started asking myself, who am I now? I started doing things that I wanted to do, and I started saying this, no. Just started saying no. I'm not doing that. No, I don't like that. No, I don't want to do that. Now, of course, how it came across to people was I was being mean.
Like what?
Yeah, right. No, I'm not being mean. Now I'm looking out for myself. I'm looking out for what I like to do and what I want to do. And when I started doing that, that's when I found my real purpose.
You see, Doctor, a lot of people don't realize that the word no is an answer.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us, it takes us time.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of us get bruised and damaged by continually saying yes to people, and then one day we wake up.
Yep.
And we realize that no is an answer, and it's an answer that we can give and turn things around.
Yeah.
I used to say that to my husband all the time. Like, you have the right to say no and not have to give a reason why you saying no.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Why not?
Exactly.
That's none of your business. Why? Because I just said no.
Yes. And that's part of the healing. Even in situations like this, that's part of your healing process by saying no. Saying no means that no, I'm going to follow and do what makes me feel good and
whole. Right.
Yes. Yeah. That worked for me.
And finding wholeness, right? We're talking about the mental. Let's talk about the emotional state as well. Like, how important does all of those things join together?
Well, the mental, you are what you think.
Okay. So now you're erasing that who am I without this loved one who lost, who you just lost. Now what do I think of myself?
Right.
Okay.
Right. How, what do I think of myself? And sometimes you have to start asking those questions to yourself. How do I feel about X, Y, and Z? What makes me happy? What makes me sad? Why does that make me sad? Or why does that make me happy? And kind of move into those arenas and areas that do make you happy. Even if it's being around someone else that makes you happy, you need to do that. Surround yourself with people with positive vibes. This is the one thing that helped me. I'm a cancer survivor.
Okay. I was hoping you would mention it.
I'm a cancer survivor. And the one thing that helped me through my process is being around positivity. Being around positive people. So what I did was, if there was people, even friends or family members that were negative, I didn't have time.
Okay, so let me ask a question and define this, because this word vibe is all, that's the new word right now, right?
Yeah.
Vibes only. Everybody got t-shirts and stuff. What is that atmosphere like? Now, you have to be able to understand the difference between someone that's giving you, if you will, a human, oh, it's going to be okay, you're going to be better, right? Because we want you to be better, but we don't really like you. But because it sounds good to say, but because it sounds good to say, and it seems like you're giving compassion, they want you to die. Now, in creating this positive vibe, how did you take this time while you're going through your cancer steps and stages that you knew that you needed to really authentically be around people that truly had your best interest and knew that they had your best interest, so that you can create that atmosphere that you needed to get the positivity that you wanted?
To be honest with you, I separated myself. First of all, people in your circle who are real, and those who are not so real. So
tell the truth. Let's tell the truth.
I literally separated myself to, and there are a lot of people that I cut off, that I didn't talk to on purpose, because I also came to another epiphany in my life too, while I was going through this cancer thing, is not only am I going to surround myself with the people that are positive right now, but that's going to continue.
Right.
Even after this. So a lot of people, I truly, literally, honest to God, and I hope some of these people not watching, but oh well. You have to cut communication with phony people who don't mean well, who've been dragging you along, and they don't mean what. You have to cut all of that stuff off. And I did. People who stress you, even family members who you can only take for like 5 minutes. You got to cut that. If that's all you can take, 5 minutes, you call them, let that 5 minutes go, and be done with it. Literally, you have to do this on purpose. Surround yourself with positive people who will uphold you even when you have a bad moment. And those people are the people who really, really know you. And that could be a couple people on your hand.
Yes.
They're the people who really, really know you.
And that's even if you had 2 friends.
Exactly.
10 that just are chaotic.
And I had about 2 to 3. Trust and believe.
See?
But that's what helped me through my process, because I didn't have to hear any negative remarks. I didn't have to have people stressing about something, stressing me because they want something or this, that, and the other, or worrying about this.
Because if you were dead,
you don't want to have to go through
changes,
right? You don't want to have to go through changes. And so even while you're dealing with grief, that's the type of environment you need, because that will help pull you up. Yeah. Even when you're going through a bad moment, they're not going to cuss you out or tell you, you need to do this, you need to do that. You already know that deep down inside. Sometimes their presence is enough. And so that's what really helped me through my, going through the cancer treatment, is having positive people around me, giving myself eventually positive affirmations, speaking it into existence, speaking stuff over my life, even when I was feeling bad, saying, oh no, I'm going to get through this. It's only going to take a minute. I'm going to be strong enough to make it. I'm going to be fine, and doing what you have to do, again, for your own well-being. It is not selfish to do that.
And I'm trying to put your business out there, but being single, you need more support than you would that you don't get from a spouse.
Right.
That you have to reach out to your other network of people to give you what you need.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And it's crucial to have those people in your life.
Yeah, but we want you married too, but I'm just saying. But you said something, some people, I hear this all the time, we family, we blood, we ride or die, this and that. But sometimes if you have to, that doesn't mean I don't like you. You're just not welcome in this space.
Right.
For me. So there is a place to put boundaries, and it's okay to create boundaries in our life, because I'm not 3 anymore, or whatever, or we not cousins like we used to be anymore. You're doing your thing, I'm doing mine, whether we both agree or disagree. That does not mean I have any unforgiveness or hatred towards you. We're just in different spaces.
Yes.
That's just allowing us to do things in a different way.
Key word is boundaries. That's the key word right there. And for a lot of us, we're afraid to create boundaries because we're afraid of hurting people's feelings.
Right. But are you really hurt my feelings if you tell me the truth? But people feel this false sense of well, I'm not going to say false, but this rejection thing, that if we're not, as close, or if I'm not telling you all my business, or if I'm not checking in with you 30 times a day, that it's like, oh my God, what's going on? No, I just don't need to share some things.
And people don't understand that that's creates stress. That creates stress when you're not understanding me as a person, when you're not understanding where I'm coming from. So boundaries, even in the grieving process, boundaries is very, very important, because you don't need the extra drama. You need healing. You need to be able to heal in peace. You need, and that's another thing. You got to have a peaceful atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing that helped me, is having a peaceful atmosphere, no drama, no arguing, no doing, none of that kind of stuff. That's very important. Boundaries is very, very important.
I'm saying, Dr. Copeland, go ahead.
I think people who are afraid to create boundaries, I think in a lot of cases it's a sign of weakness. They don't think they can stand or do anything on their own, or they're afraid of what people might say if they put up those boundaries, and they prefer to be in everybody's corner than to hold on to what they believe.
And see what I want to ask you too.
In a lot of cases, it's a major sign of weakness.
So I wanted to also ask you, as far as your office in dealing with mental counseling, now, with all of the loss, the grief, for those that are on medication, these things, can that exasperate their conditions?
Yes, it can, and we have seen people on medication that have to be constantly going back to their psychiatrists, and it is creating this negative impact and having this negative effect, and a lot of people are not dealing with it well, and I, for one, don't believe that medication is the answer to everything called mental health.
Mm-hmm. Explain that.
I believe people need to be heard. A lot of people who are having these issues, they need to be heard. They need to sit down and be able to talk to somebody and have their voices heard without interruption. Somebody who will empathize with them, and I didn't say sympathize, I said empathize with them and understand what they are going through.
So it's not necessary for people to really be on, psychotropic medications, as long as they know that they're getting the proper help and treatment, mentally in other ways as well. And if they need to take medication? That would be the last resort.
Well, again, it all depends. It all depends on what and what the diagnosis is, because I will not sit here and tell you that
there's some
talk
people
therapy is for every diagnosis. It's not. Right. There are some diagnoses, mental health diagnosis, that a medication regimen will be the main source.
Gotcha.
But I'm saying it is not the answer to everything.
Got it.
Right. And at the same time, everything is not a demon, church folk.
Right. Go ahead. Say so, please.
Everything is not. There are really people who need professional help, and the sad part about it is, with the church, we're the first, in some, we're the first to want to lay hands on people and cast the demon out.
Right.
Instead of understanding sometimes there's a mental issue going on. And they're not hearing your prayer. They're not hearing you laying hands on them because they are mentally off at that time. And maybe they have forgotten their medication. Okay. I want you to come back to church, take your medicine, come back to church. Then we can pray for you. And then you can be coherent enough to hear what we're trying to say to you. Exactly. It doesn't work. Exactly.
Right. So just,
we struggling and sweating and wasting our energy and wasting our, oil. Yeah. We slinging oil all over the place, and they get back up just as
regular. Right. Yeah. Like nothing ever happened. Exactly. Exactly. But it's real, because this is where I say that the church is completely behind time and ignorant of a lot, because we want to blame God and the devil for everything. Some things are just biological, DNA, your cells,
environmental.
Yes, if you came from, and because we all have to admit, there was maybe the 80s where drug addicted babies were happening. Now fast forward, they almost 40 years old, and you don't understand, like, some of them are now, it may have been delayed, but it's now mental issues that are coming up, recurring, and you have absolutely no idea on what's going on.
Yes.
And so, now they come to church because they feel led to come to, to the Lord and everything. And they laying on the altar. You want to, do all this stuff, but you're not qualified to discern that this is not the Holy Ghost.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
Mm-hmm. This is someone who possibly became schizophrenic, bipolar, manic depressive.
Yes.
That showed up Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. And at that moment, the triggers happen.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe in prayer. I believe in deliverance.
Yes.
I believe in and all of those things that we were taught. And I've seen God work.
Yes.
I've seen God do it. But at the same time, we have to also realize, while you were talking too, something came to my mind. There's going to be a lot for the church to deal with
after this.
Once this is over with.
After this.
Not only that, once we're able to go back into our buildings full throttle, there are going to be a lot of issues that people are going to be coming to church with.
Yeah.
How are they going to address it? Are we ready for that? Even virtually.
Yes. Yes. Because 10 out of 10 churches do not have any kind of medical staff on their, in their church.
Right.
And so, since you don't believe in going to the world to get counseling, where are your members going?
Right. That's going to be a real. I'm not saying it's going to be. It is a real tricky thing now.
Because you also got to have insurance for that, and the church don't want to do that.
True that. But even staying on the topic with the grieving, there are a lot of churches that are not equipped
to deal with it.
But how are they dealing with it now? It's are you helping your disciples, those members, those people that have been tithe faithful, tithe paying members, active in the ministry, blah blah blah? Have you, even during this year, because I could tell you some stories I have heard this year about things that people have been doing in leadership to the disciples. I'm like, what? How are you now? If you're not doing it now, you're not going to do it when you be able to walk through your building.
Yeah.
And again, being unprepared. So what's the process that the church should have, that's in your manual that says this is what we do, this is what we believe, this is what we're all about? Because everybody's not really about all of that. They say they are, but you don't see any activity as such.
This is where the church has to transform itself and really being a part of the community and being that center, not just a place to go to jump and shout and fall out and feel good, but to be the actual center for the community where you can get that type of help. Even if you're not staffed medically or have counselors, you have some type of referral service.
I was like, you have to be, because someone asked another episode, and I would say, I'm a firm believer that every pastor, leader, whatever, needs to be connected with services within your community to refer, whether they're members of your church or not, so that they can get help and build relationships so you can send them to trustworthy individuals, because not everybody's trustworthy. But when you position yourself as that voice in your community, you need to be able to send people that come to your churches, whatever, for whatever reason, to be able to help them get some help and navigate them through it.
Right. Absolutely.
And so even now, let's get to, I also kind of want to deal with this one because it deals with grief and stuff. Our eating habits.
Okay.
That plays a good part in things too, because when people are grieving, they can go into depression. I can't tell you, I lost someone again this year who, for her depression was so deep in her life. She was an awesome person though. Awesome. She didn't believe it enough in herself and wound up eating herself to be quite large. And she died this year. And I believe, as much as I was out there trying to help her, and she was doing good for a while until it took one trigger that set her back. And that was the end for her. How important is it that we help people to understand those triggers? And if you have a proclivity to food in that manner, or you're now going to start using food as your relief, how important is it that we start to maybe notice certain patterns within our own life and shiftings that happen that cause us to do those things?
It's extremely important. And I can just talk from experience from myself. After going through the cancer thing, certain medications cause you to eat anyway. But the pandemic happened. And then also, like everybody else, I end up working at home, teleworking. Okay. Which means that because I have an underlying condition, I wasn't out a lot. So I'm home, which means that all that change caused me to eat.
But that wasn't depression eating.
I gained 30 pounds within a matter of months. I was at 175, 178, kind of consistently. I'm over 200 pounds now. That is not God.
I can't believe that.
Oh, trust and believe.
Okay, but see, but
believe.
Your benefit, it wasn't depression eating though.
Well, it was
home to now instead of eating out every day, you cooking.
That's not that. No, it was stress eating. It's stress eating and depression. It is stress and depression. Because what I found myself doing is not only eating more as far as my portion sizes. I have a whole plate. I'll go back and get another whole plate. What? And the thing of it is, I would end up snacking in between meals. When you're home, you're stressed. You can't go anywhere. You're on lockdown. You end up staying up later. Your time clock gets off, so you automatically just start finding stuff to do because you're bored. You start eating, and that's what I started doing. Now, what it did to me, though, my cholesterol went up. Because I also was eating all the bad things. Okay. So I had to realize, and for me, little vanity, when you get to the point, when I get to the point where I'm like getting winded, just taking a few walks, when I'm getting, trying to tie my shoes and stuff, and I can't stand there no more. I can't, that's a problem for me. When I can't fit in my clothes no more, that's just really, really a problem for me. So I had to come to the realization this is not healthy. And I also had to come to the realization that this is stress induced. Worrying, not necessarily going into a depression, but just worrying about what's going to come next. Am I going to be laid off? Because I need my health insurance, things like that. So it was a wake up call for me in knowing, okay, you got to change your eating habits now, or you're not going to live. That's what helped me. Started having, chest pains and stuff like that. But that's stress induced. I went and had a stress test. There's nothing wrong with my heart.
Right.
Induced. The pandemic has a lot to do with that. So I had to change my mindset. I had to start thinking differently about my eating habits and even about circumstances. You have to start changing the way you think and the way you handle it, so you can live a little bit better. So yes, eating is very important. Changing your eating habits. I had to put the Twizzlers down and put a whole bunch of stuff down that I was eating, snacking on all the time. You have to make a conscious decision to do that.
Eating the right thing. Because as the doctor says, he was stuck at home. I was at home for a while too, and I also put on a few pounds, which shouldn't have been. But
right.
When you're home, you pick on everything in sight, because there's nothing else to do. So I think a lot of people are struggling where this is concerned, and the important thing is it is going to happen. What is important is that we in the process we learn to make healthier choices, to pick on healthier choices, because as long as people are stuck at home, it's difficult to tell them, oh, you're eating too much, you're eating too many times. It's going to happen.
So now that we're knowing that how important the emotional part is to your grieving process, give us 5 tools that we would be able to start to begin to walk in that knowledge of, now, you know what, I have let my life get stuck. I have, put away things that I maybe should have been done. And how do I activate myself in something, especially if I've never had that experience before? Like, I don't know what that means. I don't know, how to really pick myself up, especially again, for those that maybe, by themselves and they really don't have that kind of circle. How can Passing on the Mantle help our viewers to say, listen, let's start with step 1 for you, and then we'll help you grow in the rest?
I would say the first thing that one needs to do is to start loving oneself. Okay.
What does that look like?
Okay. So if I love myself, I'm going to strive for a healthy lifestyle. Okay. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to smoke. I'm not going to overeat.
Things that you wouldn't do that you want to live. That's what I tell people. People, when you want to live, you get a diagnosis or whatever, and if you want to live, then you're going to do what you're instructed to do to live. Now, if you don't, then that's what you do.
If you don't love and care about yourself, then all of these things mean nothing. If you're a person who has given up on life, life is meaningless. There's nothing else to do. None of these things mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But once you start loving yourself and tell yourself you have a purpose, convince yourself that you can achieve that purpose, then you will start to it will become easier for you to make these adjustments. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying it will be easy,
Right. I'm saying that it's not an overnight fix, but
right?
it
But
keeps you on the
it
pathway
becomes
of the open
easier for
door.
you to make these adjustments,
Yes. And
so you
small is
you
good.
can live to fulfill whatever your calling is.
And and what I love about you saying that is because I think we do listen to so many gurus and experts all the time telling, 10 steps to this and 27 steps to that and 5 steps to this. But the simple thing is, like I tell people about salvation, one day at a time. If you take that first step, see how it works. Like, okay, so just sidebar about eating. So I said, okay, I need to pull back on your meat. My doctor was like, okay, you need to pull back. No problem. So I love to cook. I'm a real foodie. So I started looking at food and recipes differently that can substitute for the same thing I desired to taste for, but was not actually it. So I made some fried oysters that tasted, I seasoned them like I would chicken, and they actually almost tasted like chicken. So that's my chicken substitute. So it just took one step for me to figure out something different. Now that has become a part of my lifestyle. So it wasn't like I was going antagonizing it as a one day fix and it's going to happen overnight and I'm just going to stop. No, I had to set a plan for myself to say, for every meal that I have, take out one thing, bad thing, and replace it with a good thing. Mr. Copeland, I know you wanted to say something.
We can all make that change. We can all make the change to change our lives. It takes some commitment, takes some determination.
Mm-hmm. So discipline is a real key factor.
Discipline is the key. It cannot be done without
But what happens to
sacrifice.
people when they say, "Well, I don't have discipline," and I'm nah. Because you have some people. I have my friends like, "Nah, man, I can't even do it with you because I need to eat my meat," and I respect it. Okay,
But and this is where sometimes you have to give them the cold hard facts of life.
Mm.
Because something is killing you, but you can't let it go. This is where you have to give them the cold hard facts of life. Is that they let it go or you're gonna die.
Got it. Yeah, because I'm always trying to get my friends to do stuff, because I'm like, it's gonna help you, it's better for you, let's work that out. So now you got self-love. What's another key point?
Okay, so you love yourself. You're going to make lifestyle changes.
Whatever that is, whether it be your friends or whether it be your eating or all of the above.
If you're going to cut people off, and don't take a year to do it.
Right. I'm one for every.
If it comes to the point where you have to let go, you have to let people go.
Mm-hmm.
Just cut them. Don't prolong it.
And see, now so that's a good thing, because like sometimes either I'll do it randomly or my phone will just happen by itself where I'll lose all my contacts. It's something that just happens. I'm like, oh my God. And then I realize some of those fine folks, if I didn't hear from you, then I have to put you in a category. Because if it's almost like if I'm not reaching out to you, you don't reach out to me. So then that's a one-sided relationship. And that's something that I need to assess to find out, why do I keep reaching out to you and caring for you when I don't get it back in return? And I think a lot of people are in those stages of having to try to figure out, well, how do I define my relationships? Because I don't know how. And this person has been there for me for so long, but yet I've never been there for them the way that they need it.
Right.
Another thing you have to do is cut off negative people cut off the negative forces from around you. embrace the positive forces.
Yeah.
Negativity will pull you down into that pit every time.
Mm.
It is useless. Negativity is useless to you.
It's useless. I like that. Negativity is useless to you. I love that. Third point.
So the next point is do what you love to do.
Or find something to do, right?
Do
Because if
what
I
you
do
love
what
to
I
do.
love to do,
Because a lot of us are engaged in things that we really don't like, but we do it
out of habit.
just to get by,
Okay.
and,
Okay.
and that can lead to unhappiness.
Mm.
We become resentful. It can lead to a number of issues. So find something that we love to do. Do something that we like. Do something we enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So step number 4.
Find something that is rewarding.
Fulfilling for yourself.
Not only to you, but something that will enrich the lives of others.
Find something that will enrich the lives of others. That's awesome. And one more, right? Step 5.
Love.
Okay.
Love.
Love.
Love. Love others. Reach out to others. Embrace others. And sometimes even the church we are sort of selective with the people we want to embrace.
We're selective with the people we want to embrace. That's good.
But this is not what the Bible teaches.
Right.
Christ said, "A new commandment I give unto you, that you love
one another.
Love and embrace others."
And that's a habit. You said something about that's a habit that we do have. Like, if they don't look like us, then we're very standoffish. We don't want to, embrace. We don't want to welcome. And I think that is a very, very, that's a very bad thing. And then that just tells me sometimes in certain places and churches I've been, where you don't feel the love there. You could tell. You could walk in the building and know if you're going to be received or not. You can tell by the ushers. I'm telling you, as soon as you walk in them doors, you already know if you're going to be received or not. And then they want to sit you in the back, and then you have to give them your full title and all 30 titles that you have before they acknowledge you, to put you somewhere where you could just, is that really necessary? I'm just here. Why can't I just be welcomed as a stranger and just come into the house of God because I just want to be able to worship?
Right.
So, Dr. Washington, give us 5 points, sir.
Okay, rephrase that question again for me.
5 points to help people on their pathway to healing and to thereafter.
Okay. It might be a little bit more than 5. I do have a couple. I'm gonna take it from a life coaching perspective.
Okay.
First thing to do is ask yourself, what do you really want?
What do you really want for yourself, or what do you want out of? Okay.
No, what do you really want for yourself?
Okay.
It's like, in other words, let your mind go. If it's something, I want a house on the Riviera, write that down. Okay. Let your imagination and your dreams, kind of soar. And then pick the most enticing item on your list for yourself. Number 2, what would it take to get where you want to go? Okay. Don't worry about how you would do these things, but just like list all the steps or something that think would be involved. What is it going to take for you to get there? Are you going to have to cut some people out? Are you going to have to do this? Are you going to have to, have boundaries, whatever it takes. 3, who could help you.
Okay.
Find someone that you trust. You
Or
know,
find somebody new.
yeah, you can. But again, don't let reason be your guide. You know, you can have let's say you can have Oprah on your list if you want to, or your next best friend. But write that down. Okay, write that down as a resource that you can think of, and then brainstorm about, who could help you connect with that person or someone else like them. Okay. Don't even think about the people you know. Think about the step that you're trying to take. Okay, that can help you get to that step. Because the people that you know may not be the ones that can help you.
Okay.
Okay. Then look at your answers, and look at what is the first doable step that you could take, let's say in the next week or so.
Timelines.
Right. That would get you moving in the direction that you want to go. It's all about taking that first step, a practical step. Okay. So the first step is usually smaller than you think it should be, but it will often end up being far more powerful than what you anticipated. In other words, don't set yourself up for failure either. Okay. So as long as you commit to taking another step once you've completed the first one. Okay. And then I would say there was something else too that I was going to share. I'm trying to think of it. What was the other one?
Well, while you're thinking about that, I want to have this question. If I don't know that I've been stuck because now it's been so much and I've done it so often, how can I become aware that I've now left my life in the grave with my loved one?
If you don't know you've been stuck in what?
If you don't know that you have been stuck in your own life, how can I recognize that I need to come out of that position of pause? Because it's been 10 years and I've been doing it for so long. I don't see myself differently because I left my life in the grave with the loved one.
Normally you would know if you are doing the same thing, if you've been doing the same thing over and over and can't get past a certain stage.
And that's different than just being a creature of habit, right?
Certainly. So if you are stuck, if you are stuck and say, why did this person have to go this way? Why couldn't it be someone else? And you keep going over the same thing over and over for a period of time. It means you're not healing. You're stuck in the process.
Because I see a lot of times when, especially on social media, people, oh, today you would have been this old, or, this and that. And I don't know if people realize, again, it's a difference between having a good memorial or remembrance of something. But if you have to, every anniversary, like just doing something, and then you get, again, when I was talking about, changes and shifting in planets and stars and things, that does have something to do with your DNA too. So if we are still like, having to recognize this person's been dead out of my life and you've been gone, and you want to, you got a post that's the size of a 500-page book. How do we just, not sounding, again, not sympathetic to them, or empathetic, or either one, how can we get you to see, like, now this is enough? You need to heal in a different kind of way because it's time.
Yeah.
And we both, because we can see it. We see it all the time. It's not like it's the first year. I'm talking now you're into 20 years.
Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah.
And it's become now life for you in a bad way.
Yeah. It's hard to get people out of that loop. You really have to show them something else, or maybe show them a better way of doing something, because actually they have no life after that. They're not, they really don't have a life after that. That you, like you said, that is their life. So sometimes you have to show them something else to do, get them outside of that that loop, or something or another. But that's a very hard thing to get them past. And they really, something like that, they really need to seek professional counseling, because that's a habit that has become so much a part of them, that they don't see what it's doing to, they at that point, they need professional help.
And I'm saying, because I mean, we've seen, men and women that have lost parent, their children in the public eye from whatever tragic death may have happened, but, have been able to, now they're running for political office, or they started some kind of movement, or, they became actively involved. And they did not let that, especially no matter how heinous how heinous the death was, that it still was, they did not allow that. They turned it around, able to help protect others in some kind of way. And I don't know if the church has taught enough or teaches enough to teach folks to do that.
Yeah, to take that grief and use it in a more positive way. Yeah, I get that. And that's really what should happen. That's a more healthy way of dealing with it, is to take it and use it in a more positive way, turn it around. But you're right. The church has not done that. I have experienced where, and I know some people that do this, who have, memorials year after year after year after year after year after year. I'm like, okay, well, take that memorial. How about this? Make it into a scholarship.
Right.
To help somebody else, so that it's not just about this memorial deadness, but now it's about giving life to somebody else through that legacy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's crucially important. Again, we don't want to die full.
Exactly.
And yet you don't want to die broken either.
Right.
And if there's anything that we can do to help people move forward, and that's what I mean about life after. There is life after death.
There is. And I think people lose their own individual purpose. And they have to realize, they have to get back. It's almost like going back to the beginning. You have to realize that there is a purpose for your life. You have meaning, you have purpose, and right now you're living in somebody else's purpose that's done.
Now, we have a lot of first ladies who lost their husbands.
Yeah.
And post-pandemic, and they have been always known for being Bishop such and such's wife.
Yeah.
Now that he's gone, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Is the church really going to be there for you? The people that you have, bled for, are they really going to help encourage you navigate through? Do you have another support mechanism that can help you get through? And sometimes it's not. I've known pastors. I know pastors, a few pastors' wives, bishops died, and now some are on the street, literally, and then there are others that had to. The church kicked them out.
Right.
My heart bleeds for stuff like that, because it's like, how will we take the broken and cast them aside?
Yeah. But at the same time, too, it's our responsibilities as an individual to find that more meaningful thing that will give us life. I know you've been doing this for so long. You've been doing this for 30, 40 years. But guess what? It's not there anymore. And sometimes we don't like to face the really harsh reality of things that are not there anymore, because we've gotten so used to it.
Right.
Okay? The reality of it is, sister, it is not there.
Right.
Do something else. What else? Okay, let's turn over a new leaf. Walk a different path now.
Right.
What do you like to do? What do you want to do outside of what you were doing? Or maybe you can still do those things just in another capacity. But the reality of it is that's not there anymore. Okay. So now you have to focus really on you, not the people making you who you were, but focus on you, who you really are now, because that's going to be your happy place. Trust and believe that. When you find out who you really are and what you really like, maybe you don't even like wearing the big hats no more. No, people wanted you to do that. That's what you like, the applause of the people. Not anymore. So now you got to focus on you. What makes you happy? Who is the real you? You ain't got it. Look, you ain't got to dress up and be cute every Sunday now.
Right. You put some jeans on.
Right. Exactly.
So I always tell people, when we sit down, I said that the most important person in this equation is you.
Yes.
Not me, not your pastor, not your doctor. The most important person in this equation is you.
Yes.
And we have to make them realize this, because once they start valuing themselves and putting out that value to themselves, it will bring about a lot of change.
And why I wanted to talk about that too, because some people feel like they can never love again. And like, I'm a second wife. My husband's first wife passed away. And so he was dead set. He had already been married 30 years. He was like, yeah, I'm never going to, he told God, I'm done. Like, and then when I came along, it was such a tornado for him, as he says, that it was so unexpected because it really was random. So especially people that have been married for those years, and now your spouse is no longer here. I think we have justified causes for both sides. If it's a woman and she marries within a year of the death of her spouse, oh my God, like how could you do that? But if it was a man, it's like, yeah, you need a wife because you need to take care of yourself and you need to do this and that and the other. So can we just deal with that for just a second? Like, is there a difference between a grief that a woman goes through when she loses a husband and a grief that a man goes through when he loses a wife?
Dr. Copeland?
The grief is the same, and I think it's, if I might say so, it's our biases,
okay,
and sometimes our chauvinistic attitude that stands out.
Chauvinist.
Women have the same needs that we have as men, and we can't be dealing with the same issue and have two set of rules for dealing with the same issue. We deal with one issue, there must be one set of rules, whether it's from the male or the female. For me, where I'm concerned, I think the same thing that goes for the men should go for the women.
But how church folk be. Go ahead, Dr. Washington.
Well, in all realistically, men are different from women. Men do handle things a little different from women, right? I don't think that should be two separate rules, but I think my twist on it is, because they are different, men may not be as emotional about it, because of the way that most men, are made. Most men don't really, they hide their emotions. I think women are a little bit more emotionally attached than most men are. I think that's the difference. It doesn't make it any better or any worse, but I think that's the dynamic that we deal with when we talk about that.
Okay, so now I want to help those that are children of parents that have passed away.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, there's some have been young.
Yeah.
Some children lost their parents at young ages. We
Yeah.
have some that have had the affordability and the blessing to be able to lose their parents in a, you know, older age. Let's help someone with that as well.
Well, children show, from what I understand, children show grief differently than adults. And they may particularly have a hard time understanding and coping with the loss of a loved one. Sometimes children appear sad. They talk about missing the person, or they even may act out. Other times they play, they may interact with friends and do, you know, their usual activities. As a result of some of the measures taken with COVID, taken to limit the spread of COVID-19, they may also grieve over loss of routines, you know, such as going to school
Every day, right?
playing with friends. So it's important that we ask them questions to determine their emotional state.
So how is a parent to, you know, that, you know, because we have parents that use, you know, don't tell me as a Santa Claus when you buy me the gifts, you know? And so I don't know if some parents really understand it's okay to be truthful with your children. Like, we give our children a disservice when we are leading them astray to believe something that is not real. So how can parents really have that truthful conversation? Like, you know, grandma passed away, grandpa passed away, or daddy or mommy passed away. You know, it wasn't like, you know, the angel just swooped down and took you, you know, the things that we say that almost you want to bring comfort, but it really gives the child a very distorted view of death itself. And it doesn't help them to navigate it through realistically and authentically, because then when they grow up, they may not, you know, they may have something that's really tragic and not be able to function from it because they really don't understand the concept of death.
You know, and I'm saying this from experience. The children we are dealing with now are not. They are far superior intellectually to us when we were growing up.
Okay.
Our parents and grandparents would tell us all sort of foolishness, and we wouldn't have. We didn't know any better. We bought into it.
Right.
These children now, 3 years or 4 years old, you said grandma is dead. They understand what you mean. Grandma, they might term it, oh, is grandma gone to heaven? She's not going back. But they know grandma is no more with them. And I find it's not really difficult to have that conversation with the majority of them, because they do understand. And it is just for us to break it down to them in the right setting, where
so
they don't.
Is there any good in saying, well, you know, now that, you know, grandma's not here, she's going to be your angel that watches over you, and, you know, things of that nature that we tell our children?
And that might be what some religion teach that the dead watches over the living relatives. So I think it will come down to what culture you're in.
Okay.
Because there are religion and cultures who that really believe in that.
Dr. Washington?
I think I think it depends on the child.
Okay.
I think we should provide age and developmentally appropriate answers to them so that they do understand. Like you say, you may have those. I mean, you can talk to them like you talk to a 30-year-old person,
For some,
you know. But then
Right.
there are other children who aren't maybe that developed. So I think it is important to talk to them from a giving them developmentally appropriate and answers, and also give the child permission to grieve
Mm-hmm.
by
Yeah, I don't
allowing
like
them
that whole.
time to talk or to express their thoughts, their feelings in creative ways. Allowing them, because they're going to express it. They're not, they may express it through drawing.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to what they draw.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
And I would say that just on an overall, just mental capacity, period.
Yes.
Pay attention. If you see your child, their dress changes,
Yeah.
stuff is going on, they're under the influence of something else. I don't care what you say. And it's not everybody does this. It's not, oh, this is what's cool. No, you know the difference between fashion trends and what you're doing. Excuse me, conversations. You listen to angry cussing music and, all the things that play a part in your mental psyche. And then you start exhibiting those behaviors in other ways. And then parents, I've seen many, if you will, bow down to that because they're too scared to step up and say something and to actually confront whatever it is.
Well, I think it's also important too for parents to model coping strategies for your child. You can't, I don't think it's wise to necessarily let them see you off the rails all the time, because they're going to pick up on that. Children pick up on everything. They're like sponges.
Right. I love this comment we have here by Diane Brown. She says, I've looked up dealing with grief to help my kids adjust to being at home from school. They're grieving the loss of seeing their teachers and their friends. It was like, she said, I also had to speak to my 7-year-old much differently than I have my 4-year-old.
Right.
This whole home thing, when parents are now forced to be home, it's a lot too.
Yeah.
And it shows that grief does not have to be associated with death. It can be the loss of anything.
Right. And so now that parents are, we my friends out here had a joke. It was like, yeah, some of y'all now how your teachers wasn't lying because your kids was bad when they was calling you up every day to come up to the school. Now that you got to be home with them every day, now. But then on the other hand, you do have such as, Diane, where you have, you're home with your children. The kids really don't understand. So, depending on the age, she has a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. So depending on what the age is, like, well, mommy, why can't I go outside and play with my friends? Mommy, why can't I go next door to my neighbor? Why can't I, do this anymore? Why can't we do the things that we used to do? So that mental psyche, she, as a responsible parent, she's like, I don't know. Like, so let me look it up. And I respect that. Like, don't try to fluff it off as something else. Then you're saying, I need to really give my child the help and the tools they need so we all can be healthy still in the midst of this and grow from it. Take what we can do, let's do. But I have to give my child an answer. I have to give them a qualified answer. So in me doing that, and that's my responsibility as a parent, I need to go and do some research. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there isn't.
Nothing wrong. Go get the research, do whatever, read up on it, study it, and then go back and say to Johnny or Susie, well, remember the other day when you asked, and it's okay to say, mommy doesn't know that right now, or daddy doesn't know that right now, but I'll get back to you with that.
Right.
You open yourself up for mega dialogue and conversations, and you will build a better relationship with your child when you do that. And they can respect that, mommy may not have all the answers, daddy may not, but at least I'll get an answer. And you don't have to worry about them getting it from the street.
Right.
And I have seen a lot of that. And I talk about this all the time, even with our bodies and stuff. Like my son, I raised him. And so it was, listen, your body, this is a penis, this is a vagina, this is what it does, this is what it doesn't do. This is not what you're going to hear outside.
Right.
You know, so even with this loss, again, like Mr. Copeland, Dr. Copeland is in my head, said, it's not just death that is a loss. We have lost so much this year in so many various ways. I was looking at, there's an exorbitant amount of homelessness now that has increased. Domestic violence has increased. You know, a lot of things have gone on that we either swept under the carpet or really didn't know that it was as bad as they were before. Now that the exposure has happened, there are clinical social workers and psychologists and therapists that need to get on the front line because America at large needs help and mental transitioning, mental cleaning, mental support to help them navigate through this. God forbid, I read the statistics, like 3 million people's houses are in foreclosure. The unemployment rate is up. What are people to do? And again, this is a mental strain because if you know that you can't feed your family, you're going to try to do whatever you can, legal or illegal, to make sure you're taking care of your kids. So now we've opened up another door of another form of cycle. So if I love, Diane, thank you for opening up that door, because now we have to get to the fundamental root on how we can help and what we are supposed to do to help everybody navigate through this process.
Yeah, I think transparency is very important. Transparency with your kids is very important. Like you said, they're not stupid. If you don't know, say you don't know, and kind of walk through it with them. Walk through it with them, because I mean, it's not like when we were coming up. When we were coming up, they just didn't share things with us.
Right. It was just be quiet and go sit over there.
Yeah. This is grown folk conversation. You're not supposed to know anything.
I was relentless. I was like, no, I want to answer. Why? That was me. I was that kid. You're not going to just tell me to be quiet and not give me an answer. So they had to give me an answer. No,
well, see, that wasn't happening in my household.
You wouldn't do well in my house.
No,
you would be needing the orthodontics from like you were 7 years old.
Right.
Because for me, it had to make sense. Like, why are you telling me not to do this? Like, why? Okay, well, okay, not because I hate it because I said so. But why? So if you don't want me to keep me saying why, you need to give me an answer.
No. And the young people of today, like you say, are very smart, very intelligent. Why? I mean, you have to kind of give them something. They're not just going to accept. This generation just doesn't accept because I say so. So it is important. If anything, they respect you more when you're transparent with them. They want truth. That's what they seek. They want truth. They want to understand. So it is important, I think, if they don't know answers, to go, like you say, do the research, call the healthcare provider, call, some other type of service to really help them navigate through giving their child answers and not just trying to wing it. It doesn't make you parents. It doesn't make you stupid. It doesn't make you any less of a person or any less of a parent. It makes you a good parent when you take the necessary steps to make sure that your child is healthy, mentally, physically, and emotionally.
And I see here, I love Miss Nigel Robinson. I don't have my glasses on, so please excuse me. She said, an abuse, some of the children, love to go to school, I guess an abused household, just to get away from the abuse that they are, that was happening in the home. At least they went to school for, they got from 9 to 3. They were able to just release themselves into other things and to be with their friends and teachers and what have you. Now they're at home, and excuse me.
Well, that forces people. But that forces people to face the harsh reality of doing something about it. Now you're stuck with it.
Yes.
You need to do something about it. You already used the escape of letting them go to school to get away from it. Now you don't have a choice. It's like someone who's in an abusive relationship, or husband and wife, when that person was going off to work all the time. You had that breather from 9 to 5 or whatever, now they're working from home. You're there with them all the time. They're with you all the time. Okay, now what you gonna do? You just gonna be a punching bag for the whole time? No, you need to, this is forcing you to do something about it. And the pandemic, unfortunately and fortunately, forces you to face those things that you have had in the background for a long time that you did not want to face. It brings it all to the forefront because now you have time.
That's all you have is time.
And an idle mind.
It's the devil's workshop.
And it brings all of those things to the forefront that you have negated to deal with. Now, to me, that's a good thing because that will make you a better person.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
And
Dr.
a freer
Washington,
person.
Dr. Washington, Pastor Udina,
Mm-hmm.
I have to leave you.
Love you.
Bless you. Okay, Doc.
Yes, sir. Nice meeting you.
Bless you.
But I want because I love this what Mrs. Robinson is saying. She says it's hard. She has 6 children and all of them are different in different grades and all doing remote learning. It's really hard for me. So the stress, if you will, of a parent. And then, and I'm not saying that she's doing this. I'm taking a really broad picture, and I've heard, this before because I've seen it growing up. When you have a stressful parent, 10 out of 10, in some ways, you got an angry parent somewhere along the line.
Sure.
And if you are, and she has 6 children, so I can imagine just each one of your children have different personalities. Each one of your children have different needs. I'm just going to say, God forbid, loosely, any of them are special needs, and you have to give, because most times special needs children require more attention than, if you will, what we would consider normal children, So the stress level that she has with 6 children, each on different grade levels, different homework levels, different mental levels that she has to do as a parent to be able to, whether she has a husband, don't have a husband, don't know, not, whatever. But the fact that she's the one that's home every day with the children, helping them to learn and doing the remote learning, and she's feeling stressful. This could, if she does not get the assistance that she needs, could put her in a different mental state. So can you deal with that real quick to help her?
To help her deal with it?
Yeah, or,
Well, she said that, well, I've decided that my gift to myself this year is therapy. That's a good thing.
That's a wonderful gift to get.
That's a good thing. And that's, I think, she's not the only one. There are many people that are dealing with the dynamics that she's dealing with. And
we want to say it's okay, because that's your mommy me time. That I will get myself some help. So then when I do come back home,
yes,
I can be better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the greatest things that she could do. And I give her kudos for acknowledging the fact that she does need the help. Because there are many people who try to be Superman or Superwoman, and that's not working. You just really, really just make it worse. Number one, because you really don't know what you're doing, and it's overwhelming you, and you're doing more harm than good to your family. So I think the step that she's taken is a good step, and yeah, I'll be praying for you, Miss Brown. I mean, do what you got to do. She has, be whole. Huh?
She says she does have one child that has a IEP and special needs and needs special attention. So okay, I didn't know. So here we are. She's being authentic to her truth. And so, this year, Christmas, New Year, whatever it is, thank you. I have searched and I'm going to get myself some help and counseling. And she will be a better mom.
She will be.
And her kids will treat her differently. One knows that she's valued.
Right. And I'm sure they'll give her the tools to be able to diffuse and to deal with certain situations and dealing with the dynamic that she has to deal with in that situation. So yeah, kudos to her.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, it's, again, we have to stop being that culture of people that are saying that because you get therapy, you crazy. No, you just need to, everybody needs a life coach, a therapist, a pastor in your life, a Bible and a book.
Absolutely. And I want to encourage all leaders, pastors, especially, because most pastors really don't have that person to talk to about everything that they're dealing with this pandemic and dealing with all that. I don't think people really understand the weight of the ministry, the weight of this pandemic that it puts on leaders and having to transition So quickly,
to the point of like this mega church thing, that the relationship between pastor and member got lost, because now I got to make an appointment to see my pastor. You know? And don't get me wrong, there's some lines, you know,
right.
but how can you know what's going on with me when I can't even talk to you? How can I get help from you if you're always going someplace else and I can't even, you know, come to say I need some help? Can you even guide me to get some? We have churches that are there like that. That pastors are just so far removed. They show up on Sunday and they do whatever, and that's it. But if you had to really sit one-on-one, you don't have those pastors. I've not seen, you know, where you still have those that believe in let me meet with you, let me pour into you, what's going on with you, and still have that relationship with their members.
That's a whole nother conversation.
I know.
That's a whole nother segment. That's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother segment.
Listen, I love all of you, and I'm going to say thank you so much for tuning in to Passing on the Mantle with Pastor Undina, keeping the foundations and doctors of the church. Listen, Dr. Washington, I want to thank you, and of course, Phillip Copeland, I want to say thank you to you as well. You guys have really blessed the lives of those that we are reaching today and those that commented. I want to say thank you for even joining us for this. I know it was really impromptu, but I had to do it because, you know, I had so much going on. People was, oh my God, and I'm feeling depressed and stuff. Okay, well, let me help you get some help. So if you need some help, reach out to me, no matter where you are. I do have a good list of friends that are in various industries, trustworthy leaders too, that can help you with someone in your area to get you to help. And now that it's virtual, hey, you've seen somebody on my platform that you feel that you're connected with, that you feel that can hear you and give you the assistance that you need, reach out to me and I will make sure that I connect you both and you all can set up your appointments and your counseling sessions and things of that nature. I applaud you. I thank you so much. And I love each and every one of you. Tune in Saturday. We are coming back again. Saturday, December 26th, and we are picking up from our, if you will, marriage lounge series. We have doing the dating episode, and we will be talking about abstinence. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. So I want to say thank you. You're welcome, Diane. Thank you so much. It's important to continue to speak out about these challenges, and we are going to continue to speak out about these challenges to make sure that no one gets left behind. We will make sure no one gets left behind, and whatever services you need, whatever counseling you need, I promise you, we will be able to give you qualified individuals that will be able to assist you and your family and help you to grow and to heal and to navigate and to press past and to move forward, because guess what? There is life after death. So until we meet again, love you, smooches so much. Thanks again. Talk to you later. See you, everyone. Bye-bye.